Hey guys, I'm Nisqy, and today we're gonna go in depth on Zoe, and I will teach you stuff that you probably don't know, and I hope that you can learn from it.
Nisqy goes forward, another bomb strapped to him. Can he find the damage? The drought is down. The Battle Star is weaved through TSM.
So first of all, your summers are really important, so you always need flash no matter what happens. But then the second one depends on what the enemy has as champions. Usually I have either ignite or heal. I don't run anything else. And ignite is when like you play against melee champions like Yasuo, where you can actually kill them. And heal is for when you're playing against like Orianna, Syndra, champions that have like bursts and that you kind of play the poke game, I guess. That are range usually as well. So yeah, I usually go heal more than ignite because I think it's just way better on the champ. It lets you do way more, especially with, like for 2v2ing or like if you roam and like you're diving and stuff, you know. I just feel like it's just better in general, so I'd suggest heal over ignite always. For the runes I like the most is this one. I run Aerie usually with Nimbus Cloak. Nimbus Cloak is, you have to take it on Zoe right now because it's really broken. And then I usually go Transcendence because it just scales really well. And then either Water Walking if you wanna roam, or Scorch if you wanna play for lane. And I usually take Water Walking. And then our second rune page is usually always this, Time Warp and Biscuits, because you start Corrupting Pot, and this is just really good. And then for runes it's just this, and double AP and then MR or armor, depending on if you're against an AP or AD champ mid. So the skill order is you start Q unless you invade and you need bubble for like a kill. And then after Q, usually when I'm in lane and I hit level 2 with like minions and stuff, I always go W unless the guy is like literally in front of you and you can like bubble him for free. I usually always go W because it's really important to get bubbles really early with Zoe, and if you get lucky, then you can just kind of win the game by it. For like if you get like a smite, then you can go into the river and like smite the crab or smite the enemy jungler or whatever. If you get a redemption, you one-shot the wave, for example, and then you just Q-max into E. Okay, so for items, usually what I like to do is I buy a Lost Chapter, usually when I can. On my first, I usually go like Dark Seal and Boots, or Dark Seal and Tome. Dark Seal is just really important when you have Corrupting Pot, because these two together are really strong. Whatever gold I have, I just buy the item. For example, I just finish Lost Chapter usually, and then like I just fight or whatever. And then if I have like 1.5k, then I buy the GLP because it just gives you a better power spike. But if you have like 2k or 2.3k or whatever, then you should always go Ludens, because Ludens is just a better item in my opinion. But if you can get the GLP earlier, then it makes you stronger and you can snowball the game harder. So if you can finish it, buy GLP. If you cannot, just go Ludens. And then after Ludens, depending on the enemy team, I think something that's always safe and good is Oblivion Orb. Usually I buy like Oblivion Orb and then Soak Shoes or Mercs or whatever you need. Usually either Soaks or Mercs, to be honest. And then after this, you choose. If they buy a lot of MR, you can buy Void Staff. If they don't have a lot of MR, you can just go Rabadon, which is really strong if you're really fed. And also you could just finish Morello as well. It's not really that bad of an item anyways. And usually your last build looks like this. This, Rabadon, and then you have like a Void, Ludens, sometimes Zonia, sometimes Banshees, depending on what you need. So, but the 3 core is like Ludens or GLP into Oblivion Orb, into Void Staff, Rabadon, and Zonia or Banshees. So also one thing that's really important that people don't do is if you have a Dark Seal and you have like 7 stacks, 8 stacks, then you should always upgrade it to a Magi, because if you get a kill, then it's really worth it, and then you can just snowball really hard. And then if you don't get a kill and you die randomly and you sell it, you only lose like 150 gold or something. So it's just, yeah, it's just really good. So do it. Okay, so usually in the early game, or like the laning phase, I guess, you have usually a Corrupting Pot, this, your mid. Usually the first thing that I like to do is this. I Q behind, call my auto, I Q the back, and then whenever you get another Q, you can kind of one-shot the back. If you just auto them once, and you do it again, you Q like this, and then you just get every minion and you push really easily. And if you get poked, just use a Corrupting Pot. It doesn't really matter in the early game. And then usually either if you can push hard, I like to guard one side, and if you cannot, if like the wave is like kind of even, then you just try to push another one. And usually when I queue, I always queue the back ones, because 2 queues just one-shot them, so it's important. Then here you go W, as per usual, and now we got lucky. At this point, it's really depending on what you get. For example, like I got a ghost. It's not that useful, but for example, if I get ganked, then the ghost is really important to like escape. So now I know that I can play more aggressive because I have a ghost, right? So for example, if you get like a redemption or like a pro belt, like a smite, as I said, you can like either push the wave fast or trade really easily if you get like a heal or an ignite or a barrier. So it just depends on what you get, and that's how you kind of change your playstyle, or like that's how I do it. For example, if this would be like a competitive game, I'd probably say, okay, Eric or Licorice, I have Ghost, I can run top, can we dive, can we do something? And then you'd be like, no, yes, and then you know, you just adapt. But in Soak, usually I would probably just go here in the river and then just Ghost down and try to look for a bubble over the wall for my bot lane. And yeah, you don't really lose much because you have a Ghost. Okay, so one thing that people might not know about Zoe is that when you eat through walls, it goes way farther than it usually is, because like the normal one is this one, right? Where it's like a little bit, but if you go through walls, then it becomes insane, where like it's like 5 times faster. I mean, it's not faster, but it's like more, what do I say? More distance, I guess. Like this wall, for example, is insane, in my opinion. You have other walls, like this one a dragon, this one a blue, this one here as well, where you can just bubble from the whole map, you know, from mid. So yeah, just kind of always bubbling through walls is what I do the most. But also just, if you see an enemy here, rather than like trying to do this, you can also just ult and then E, because it makes it easier to hit, because you're like closer to him, right? And then every time you hit a bubble, always Q behind you, because it gives more damage. Like the longer the Q goes, the more damage it does, I guess. So always queuing behind you when you hit a bubble. Or even like when you try to poke or something, you should never queue like this or like this, you know, like from forward. You should always be Q behind and then Q forward and then just ult like that. For me, the things that I do a lot that most people don't do is usually I just run bot like this, and then I'm looking for bubbles over this wall. And it's really important that, as you can see, when I E, or like when I'm looking for walls, it's kind of on Smart Cat. I'm not sure how it's called, but like you need to see it, or else it's really hard to land bubbles. And because every wall is so different for me, it's just way easier if I can see the range or where it goes, you know. So you should do that in your settings. I think it's like here. Yeah, it's these ones. And for example, I use Shift E, and then when I press it, then I see the range. It's really important to hit bubbles. And then when I know I will hit the bubble and I know my wall already, then I just Insta E and then it's faster. So okay, usually my combo that I always do, the safest one, is I hit a bubble, I Q again, and then I ult. But you can also make it a bit easier, where you bubble, you Q, you ult, and then you Q again. It kind of depends on the situation, where like, if I know that someone else is gonna block it, then I usually always Q before and ult. But if I know that the guy has like cleanse, or he has like a lot of tenacity, where like the bubble would not last for long enough, then I usually just Q, ult, and then I see where he goes, and then I kinda decide where to put my Q. And also, predicting where the enemy goes is really important on Zoe, where like, if the enemy is here and he sees you, then he will start running, and he will start like dodging and stuff. So queuing behind, ulting, and then just waiting where he goes, and then queuing after is a really good tip in my opinion. And you should use it more, because people always kind of move left and right when they see Zoe, because they're scared, you know, so. Okay, so in mid game, late game, okay, usually what I like to do as Zoe, you have to play with the walls a lot, because she's actually not that safe of a champion when she ults forward, because, for example, if there's enemies here, and like here and stuff, like most Zoes, or like people that don't really know how to play Zoe, would just go forward like this and then look to ult, you know, just random stuff. But you should abuse the fact that your ult can give you like really weird angles that people usually don't expect. So usually I'm just like staying really safe, and then either I look for a bubble if I can hit it, and then if you hit, then you just kind of follow up with it. You just Q behind, you ult, and then you just Q after. It's really easy mechanic. And if you cannot hit anyone with your E, then you just try to kind of look for poke. Never like, I really hate to like flash in and stuff, just like finish one guy off, because I think it's really important that you just play for poke, because it's a poke champ. Poke champ? Huh. But never mind. Okay, so it's just important that you keep in mind that you're just a poke champion and not execute or like dive champion, you know? So yeah, if you just hit one guy, then he's 1 HP and then you win the team fight usually. And if you hit a bubble, then the guy either dies or has to flash out or is 1 HP if you hit him, right? So yeah, what I like to do is just always being over walls usually, because it makes you safe. And yeah, be in angles where they will not expect you. So a tip that most people don't do, and there's someone here for example, then what I like to do is after level 6 I usually like ult over this wall and then I look for E like this. And usually what would people do is they would just stay here and try to E like this, right? But sometimes the angle is literally impossible because the guy is staying like here or here, you know? So it's just always really good if they don't see you when you ult like this and then you just E, and then they don't see the bubbles, they don't expect it, so they will not dodge it as well. So it just makes it easier. And it has kind of his way as well in the top lane, where like you're here and then you can just ult like here and whatever, you can E like this. Same for bot, there's a lot of angles, like this one or this one here, you know. It's just, there's a lot of angles. If you play a lot of Zoe, you should know them. And I think it's important to know them because it gives you a lot of playmaking. So as a mid laner, for me, I think at least if you want like tips, in my opinion, is try to push the wave and roam. I think in solo queue it always works because people always fight no matter what. So you just here, you push your wave or whatever. And then you see that someone's fighting here, you just always run. Don't care about the mid CS because it's on like 2, 3, 4 CS. And if you get a kill, it's worth it. So just always run. People usually don't respect it, especially in low elo. And then if you get like 1 kill, 2 kills, then you can really snowball the game and kind of become the carry. And like you made one move, you're the carry, and then the enemy has to be scared of you and play around you, you know. So for me, it's just important that you should not care about CS as much, especially in solo queue, because that's how a lot of people are getting to high elo, where like they play Talon or like random champions and they just roam around the map and don't farm. So yeah, in solo queue people fight a lot, so roaming is really important. And kind of protecting yourself from ganks is also important because you don't want to give the enemies an advantage. Those were my tips and tricks for Zoe. Hope you guys enjoyed it. This was Going In Depth presented by AT&T. And yeah, hope you guys will win more solo queues and hope you guys enjoyed the video. So.